you? Welcome back to my channel, and I'm delighted to say that we got our first question in for my questions and answers section, which I think is going to end up being called Ask Carl Greenwood. Put on your suggestions. Ask Carl Greenwood. It's just so boring. Not from the horse's mouth. We're not having that. Questions and answers. Any of your questions, bob them down on video. I will accept audio, but don't be surprised if I put some funny stills to make it more interesting. So send your questions in, we'll keep this going, and of course when I've answered this question, there may be stuff that I've missed out or experiences that you'd like to share. So there you go, we're going to dive straight in. This is from Audrey, and Audrey, what's your question?
Carl, please help. My mum won't let go and let me canter. She's such a scaredy cat. She has both your hypnotherapies and has read the book, but she just won't let us have fun. What can I do to make her better?
So there you go, the old canter question. Canter. This is a common question. You might guess that this is a common question. People have built up this canter thing into a major issue. I think that's the first problem, is the way that people speak about canter. Like it's like, ooh, I'm going to canter, I'm going to canter, and they build it up and people talk about canter as if it's something other than another way of arranging four legs. A fast trot is faster than a slow canter. So there you go, it's nothing to do with speed, and people seem to build it up. So that's the first thing. The first thing I'm going to say is watch out who you're talking to and how you're talking, because it shouldn't be this major step that we're going to have, if you see what I mean. When I first was Roman riding, I got the trot okay. Roman riding is when you're standing on the back of two horses. For anyone who doesn't know, I've got a show that I take out around the country, and when we're lucky, around the world, and I stand on the back of two or more horses. And when I was learning that, the trot was good, and I had exactly what you've got, this whole about canter, and it became a big build up, and I'd be like, oh, I must canter, I must canter. There's my language, look at the way it's going. As it happened, in the end, I had to get over my own fear by abandoning the thought, I'm just going to trot and be the best smooth trotting person, and I'm going to scoot round. I used to stand there on my horses going, scoot on boys, scoot on, meaning trot, just trot round in that lovely floaty trot, nice and extended, and scooting around the arena. And sure enough, in due course, the horses sort of fell into a canter, and that's how I got used to it. By abandoning the whole urge, I must canter, I must canter, I must canter. I abandoned it for a smooth trot, and from the smooth, flowing, extended trot, they just started cantering themselves, and it was no big deal. That's how I got over it. So anyway, I've got some good news and some bad news. If you've made yourself a mental block about cantering by listening too much to them people over there, the good news is there's nothing wrong with you. Your brain's behaving perfectly normally. People come up and they say, oh, I don't know what's wrong with me, and I get this mental block. And again, look at our language. We redefine this mental block. No, you haven't got a mental block. You've got normal mental processes when you're doing any sport or learning anything else, learning to drive even. You get up to a plateau, 30 miles an hour is good, 35 is a bit edgy, and I think we'll just stick below 40. When you first got onto a motorway, oh, blimey. Now you might still not like motorways, but you can drive along them. I remember going onto a motorway and it seemed so much. Again, I'd built myself up. And the thought that I quite like motorways now. I've got my audio book on, my classroom on wheels, going along to one of my talks, and the length of the country, I have a great time. I could not have imagined having a great time when I was first learning to drive. So that just goes to show this is your normal processes that you go up to your plateau, and then usually dip a little bit and then work out your next set of skills that you've got to acquire and break down. So there's nothing wrong with you. I'm afraid to say you haven't got a mental block. You're just undergoing normal processes. But my word, people don't talk like that. People are like, oh, people send me emails and they say, I just get so frightened and I tense up and I really clamp on and I tense up and describing exactly, my hands go clammy and my heart beats and I'm trying to calm myself down and I'm thinking, breathe. That's very descriptive. That's worthy of a novel. So descriptive, you should be a script writer. Beautiful language that is all disastrous, but we're not writing a novel. What you actually mean to say is, I've reached a plateau and I'd like to crack Canter. What a difference between two different ways of saying, I'd like to get Canter under my belt. No emotion, but no, people go type it away, clammy hands, breathe in, I just freeze. There we are. So, the good news is, this is a perfectly normal process and there is nothing wrong with you. When you reach a plateau, especially where adrenaline is concerned, how you interpret that adrenaline is up to you. Adrenaline's adrenaline. Adrenaline is the same whether it's excitement or whether it's fear or whether it's nerves or whether it's excitement again. I was trying to find another word for excitement there. If you gave a kid a ticket to Disneyland, their heart would beat fast, they'd tremble, they'd probably cry and they'd go hysterical and they'd run around and run around and run around. And you go, why are you crying, running around and trembling and being hysterical? So I'm so excited. It's exactly the same as if they were fearful. The symptoms are the same, but the interpretation that you give it is up to you. There we are. So the good news, there's nothing wrong with you. The way that our brains work, when we've decided that adrenaline means fear in this particular place, and when you've emphasised that by describing words of having a mental block and describing your symptoms in great detail and speaking with the other people in hushed tones about this wondrous thing called Canter. By the time you've got that, your brain's decided that any sign of excitement is definitely fear. There we are. When fear comes into it, then we've got the fight and flight response, which lives deep in our primitive brain. I've explained this a few times in my various videos and in my book. Deep in our primitive brain, we've got our primitive flight and fight response, and it has the processing power of a 7-year-old. Think about it. If you were not you, and you were to... Oh, the chickens are going mad. If you were not you, and you had a 7-year-old sat there nervous to canter, what would you do? You'd be reassuring, you'd be understanding, you'd think up some intermediate levels. You'd think how this child needs help. When it comes to yourself, you're much harder on yourself. You're like, I need to pull on my brave pads, I need to stop being such a wuss, I need to... There we go. So the good news is that if we treat ourselves like a 7-year-old, we'll just step past this. Super easy, super normal. This is normal, normal, normal. So when you write your bite-sized plans, your lesson plans, to overcome the skill of Canter, then if you write them that a 7-year-old could deal with, we'll be laughing. We'll be laughing. That's the good news. Here's the bad news. You're going to have to spend some money. Well, you're not going to have to, but if you've got yourself into a mental block and you want to take the bite sizes, here's a few suggestions that work out really well. My first suggestion, with most things, buy a stock saddle. Buy a stock saddle, rent a stock saddle. Here's a stock saddle. It's based on an English saddle. I know it looks very Western, but it's based on an English saddle. Not the wide trees that sit further back on Western saddles. Based on an English saddle. The reason for the pommel is for the Western market. There we are. Look at the size of that cantle. You're not falling out the back. And these things here, I don't know if you can see those there are ponies. They just sit in front of your thighs there. They don't get in the way. You can still do rising trot, you can still do jumping. When they were jousting up at Camelot, all the knights had these saddles because you can't fall out of them. There we go. Oh, it's extremely difficult to fall out of them. If you were scripted into the show that you need to fall, you didn't take one of these because they're that hard to get out of. But there we go. Also, if you've got a young horse that likes to drop and spin a shoulder every time it sees a pheasant and head off the other way and you're sick of coming out the side door, I certainly put one of these on straight away. I don't let a horse get me off more than 3 times because then it will start to learn. I don't want it to learn to get me off, so I'll stick a stock saddle on for a few months until that's sorted out. So there's a lady called Sue. Sue, I hope you're watching. And we had this very conversation. She went off and got a stock saddle. In fact, I'll ask her to put a comment on underneath this video. And she has had an absolutely fantastic time with her stock saddle. Absolutely brilliant. So there we go. We've got a great big handle, so you can be as frightened as you like. You just hang on. But there you go. So that will give us some reassurance that we're not falling off anyway. If you want to, if you're constantly bothered, what if I fall off, what if I fall off, what if I fall off? Well, then you need to spend some more money. What you'd have to do is get your mate to build one of these for 150 quid and invest in some crash mats, or invest in some gym mats where you can safely roll about and just start getting active. You start doing some rolling, some forward rolls. Just imagine in your head what it is you're going to do. Because if you can change the what ifs, what if I fall off, into if then, if I fall off, then I'll roll. You change the whole thing altogether. Anyway, this isn't about falling. This is about staying on. This is about getting used to canter. If you were in one of these saddles, you would feel much better anyway. Maybe you could hire one. Put a notice out on this Facebook page. Wintech do one with the whole air care system, so you can be sure of a nice fit to your horse's back. And who knows, once you're done with it and you're back through to whatever saddle that you care to ride in, you could then hire it out, help people in exactly the same situation that you are. In fact, you can make a whole business, a whole bunch of medium, narrow, wide stock saddles, and you go around and you hire them out for a month. If you did that, the people hiring them would hire them for the month, and then they've got a month to nail their canter, and they'll be out there every day or twice a day because they've only got the saddle for a month. Well, that's an idea. You'd be helping people and you'd be making some money. But there you go. I recommend these wholeheartedly. So when it comes to canter, we've got 3 parts to it. We've got the transition in, actual canter, and the transition out. And the transition out is usually fairly hard, especially if you're a beginner rider, because you're going from this rolling motion to this choppy motion, and it's a difficult transition, possibly the worst for people to learn to, but there you go. So we've got 3 parts to it. What people tend to do is they need to pull on their brave pants. I hate that term. No need for brave pants. What we'll do, people tend to go out, start cantering, maybe in a field or somewhere where they think the horse might bolt, and all these thoughts go through your head, and what if a pheasant jumps out, blah, 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 blah. Let's get used to the canter first. Okay then, so we've got an arena. Now there is nothing wrong in learning the transition in and the transition out, and then worrying about the bit in between later. You could have a nice extended trot around the arena, and then going into the short end, into the corner, you could ask for your canter, get your canter, and then drop out of it as you come out. Now usually what happens when people first learn to canter is they get a bit frightened, their knees come up and their shoulders hunch over. Usually they forget all about steering, and the horse then turns away from the direction they were going, and now the horse is maybe going to the left or the right. They're not quite in it, and their feet have come off the stirrups because they're assuming the fetal position, and then you happily roll off as the horse decides to go off to one side. I've seen that a lot. And when I'm teaching canter, it's like I emphasise, when you go into the canter, keep your mind in your hands, because if you don't steer the thing, it's just going to go all over the place. Okay, so there's a good tip. The more you keep your minds in your hands, the less you're thinking, oh, what if it bucks, what if it farts, what if it squeals, what if, because keep your mind in your hands, keep steering the horse. That's really good. The more you think that, the more you absolutely feel the steering, the less you'll be bothered by other things. So, as steerer, people get a bit frightened and they get feet, or their feet come off the stirrups. Now, if your feet are on the stirrups, let's just move that camera back a bit so you can see a bit more of the... Well, that's not worked at all. But you'll just have to take my word for it. If my feet are on my stirrups, they're about this wide. This is my base. If my feet are on my stirrups, the width of the horse. If I get frightened and fetal and allow my knees to come up and my feet to perhaps lose the contact altogether, now I'm just sat on my saddle. And the point of contact on the saddle is as wide as my seat bones are, which is about that wide. Which would you rather have? That much stability stopping you going from side to side, or that much? And then of course you feel this instability, and then you start hanging on the reins, then the horse starts turning this way and that way because you've forgotten all about steering. And you get off and you go, that was a horrible lesson. There we are. So that's what stirrups are for. I mean, quite a lot of people don't even know this. The stirrups are there for, you can't quite see in this camera, my legs are apart, they're about that wide. They're there to stop me falling off. The stirrups are there to stop me falling off, not the reins. So if the stirrups are there to stop me falling off, because it's a nice wide platform, doing it now, then I don't have to pull on the reins, I can continue to steer the horse exactly where I want to go. So your mind needs to be in your hands as much as possible. So transition in and the transition out. We also need to get used to the canter, the motion of the canter, which can feel terribly exciting at first. So how can we break that down? We've broken the canter down into transition in, transition out, and the period in the middle. The period in the middle doesn't have to be very long, so that we can do the transition in, transition out first. And I forgot to say, when you come out, not only are you steering, but when you come down to your trot forwards. What people do is they're then backing off. They're going backwards. They're like, I am slowing. You don't have to slow. You could go back to that lovely scoot on. Scoot on, scoot on, scoot on. If your mind is going forwards, that transition from canter to trot, forwards. But people are generally thinking that they're coming down the gears and slowing down, and then you've got a change of speed as well to contend with, plus keeping your mind in your hands. So even when you're transitioning down, forwards, go forwards into your trot, and then go forwards into your walk, and then go forwards into your stop. Think forwards all the time. It just helps that transition from canter. So there's our transitions, that's all plenty to think about, and then we've got the big bit in the middle. We're going to break that down. We've broken the canter down into transition in, transition out, and make sure you're going forwards when you go into a trot. Keep your mind in your hands all the time. Now we've got let's have a little think. How can we break that down? Where can we get that knowledge? Where could you get the sensation of cantering without everything being reliant on you to remember to keep your weight in your stirrups, and to keep your hands steering, and to remember to go forward, and you're also going to remember. Let's break it down. What I'm getting to is either a friend lunging you, so you now no longer have to think about the reins, at least. You know the direction the horse is going. If you've got a stock saddle, you could just hang on to that till you get used to what the motion feels like. Your friend is in charge, round and round and round you go, While you sort it out, you can get as stable as you like. Look at that, you can hold on to the back, you can hold on to the front, you can hold on to their mane. You can stand in the stirrups a little bit if you want to, let the horse move under you. Get a friend to help you. Get an instructor to help you is even better, because an instructor hasn't got that personal relationship with you that they need to not say this or not say that, or because they're your friend and you've already told them that I don't know. But again, we're back to spend a bit of money. Spend a bit of money, get somebody to lunge you. If you're worried about your horse and you wish you had a nice safe horse like Bobby, spend a bit of money, hire Bobby, hire an instructor and get that. Or if that's a step too far, you can break that down even further. Find out where your nearest mechanical horse is, spend a bit of money, go along, get on your mechanical horse, give yourself right, I'm going to do 8 hours. Split out over this month, I'm going to do 8 hours, which is 16 half-hour sessions or however you want to do. Or whatever suits you. I'm not telling you exactly how to do it. So then you've got your mechanical horse. You can practice the motion of your hips. You don't have to hold on at all, which will prepare you for the little bite size where you're not holding on apart to the reins, you're just holding on to the pommel. You can practice standing up on the stirrups with one hand on the pommel or on the neck of the horse, letting the horse move under you. You can practice sitting down, standing up. You can practice your transitions. You can practice the motion until you know exactly what it's going to feel like to canter. Then you can transition onto Bobby. Then you can transition onto your horse with a friend lunging, or even better, an instructor lunging you around. Then you can transition to a friend lunging you around. Then you can do what we've done here. Look at this. I don't have to worry about steering too much. Look at this invention that I've made. Super, isn't it? Bits of string. Can you see that? All the way around. String and traffic cones. What I've done here is I've made each string an individual loop. So if the horse did get caught in the string somehow, you don't unravel the whole of it. Okay, so I'm just going to bring you in here so you can see this a little bit better. There we are. Look, there you go. There we go. You see, this is just a loop so that if the horse does get tangled up, it's just going to ping off. And there we are. There we are. And you end up with a section of string. What's that? About 5 meters long. And you don't unravel the whole of the thing around there. So there we are. So after you've been on your mechanical horse, learning exactly how it feels and different ways of standing up and sitting down, and even taking your feet out of the stirrups, see how that goes. Then you can get transitioned onto an instructor on a quiet horse, Bobby, I think I called him. Then you can get a friend on Bobby. Aren't these small bite sizes? Then you can go onto your own horse with an instructor, then your own horse with a friend. Then you can arrange something like this, or even cut off the arena and do the exact same circle so that you know exactly how Bobby's going to react, and then moving on to your own horse. How broken down is that? This is doable. You're thinking that this is doable right now. All you need to do, if you wrote that down in a book between now and 6 months' time, could you do that? I'm 1,000,000% sure you could. 1,000,000% sure. Then, of course, when you're happy, the stock saddle goes off to be hired to somebody else. And you're away. Okay then, thanks for listening. That was my first article without a name. Ask Carl Greenwood. So, put your suggestions down. If you've enjoyed this, get on your camera, video something that you could ask me, and we'll get a reply out to you straight away. Leave a comment underneath, and I'll see you next time. Bye!